No, but you're making claims. Can you substantiate?
Just let me talk. I'm not taking it as fact.
Because he's been talking,
I'm just saying,
and he's making claims. He needs to substantiate.
I'm trying to bring it back to the first one, which is Petra.
He said Muhammad was from Petra, and I
He didn't say it was from Petra. He said the mosque was praying to Petra. That's what he said.
Okay.
And I said, I just told you, you don't know what's inside the mosque from Bird's Eye View.
But my point was, how do you, when you say that Muhammad is from Mecca,
I didn't even talk about Muhammad. I just said,
but I was. Yeah, that's what I thought you were talking. Sorry, we got our words crossed or something.
We wasn't talking about him at all. I was only talking about how did you know they were praying to Petra. That's it. That's all I said. And you told me about if they're sending me off and all that, but it doesn't relate to how they were praying to Petra.
I think you're saying that Muhammad is not from Mecca. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, you seem sure about that.
Yeah? You're not sure?
I don't want to be in camera.
Okay, guy, you don't have to be on the camera.
Because we were talking.
No, we can talk, but you don't have to be on camera.
Yeah?
You don't have to be on camera. You can talk here. There's nothing wrong with it.
Stay there, brothers.
If you want to talk, you don't have to be on camera.
Stay off the camera.
Sorry?
You don't need to be on the camera, mate. You're not on the camera now.
Because the thing is,
You're
look,
not on the camera. You can stand there.
when you make claims, you need to substantiate them. You can have a discussion. Why not? You can have a discussion with him here.
No, that's fine. If the gentleman doesn't want to be, that's fine. Yeah, that's what I'm just.
Are you worried about
If you
something?
don't want to be on the camera, you don't have to be.
If you're worried about the camera, they won't record you.
It's facing them.
So what else
If you
you're worried
don't
about?
want to be on the camera, you won't be recorded. It's fine.
What else are you worried about?
But
You won't be recorded. We told you that.
Recording him.
I actually was talking to him.
You can talk to him still, no problem.
I wasn't talking to him.
But you can still talk to him. That's nothing wrong in that.
No, we
Speaker's
didn't
corner, right?
with his camera.
Speaker's corner. You know that. Look. I know there are many Christians who make this claim, bold claims, about how can a goat herder be a successful military leader. Yes. Can I ask you, if a carpenter like Jesus can be a successful God? Yes. Well, he's successful, is he not? To the Christians, he's a successful God. So a carpenter can become a God, but a goat herder cannot become a successful leader of an army. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
That was funny, Hashim.
I agree with you. It was funny, but the thing is that if that is a logic you can work with, I think the other logic is much easier to comprehend.
Can I call you on that one, Hashim?
No, you didn't. Was he not a carpenter? Was Jesus by trade? Was he not a carpenter? Okay. And the Christians, do they not consider him as God?
Yeah, but
So what did I lie then?
I don't think I was laughing.
it's not a human person, Hashim. It's not a blood and flesh that we consider God.
All right, no problem. Okay, that's fine.
His deity is it's something else. It's a superior. It's not like,
How is he superior?
as a Christian, we believe Jesus was incarnate. We don't seek Jesus at the birth of Mary. That's what we believe as a Christian.
So when you say incarnate,
Incarnate, it's a spirit. He was an existing being as a God who became a man. So the incarnation, so he took on flesh. So he entered into the procedure God has established where he will come through the seed of the woman. That's what.
does God change in nature?
No, don't go to changing.
Why not?
This is
Does
God's-
God change in nature?
No. Don't go to change.
Why not?
Don't ask
Because
me
he did
God
change. He did change, did he not?
See, God is outside creation.
Outside creation.
Creation.
I thought Jesus was in the creation.
No,
He was inside the womb of Mary.
Can I explain to you now? That's what I'm saying. He entered the creation, but God lives outside the creation.
Okay, my question is very simple.
Let me answer you.
You haven't even asked the question yet. You didn't let me ask the question.
I'm clarifying because the perception.
At least let me ask the question and then clarify.
No, you
What,
talked
no?
about.
What I talked about.
You talked about Jesus
Yeah.
being a man, a carpenter. All that.
Was he not a carpenter?
He was in that flesh. That's what I'm trying to explain to you.
Okay.
My
So now explain to me
you-
about the nature of God.
Exactly.
Okay,
That's
does
what I'm
God
saying.
change his nature?
No, listen.
Does he or not?
Listen.
No, answer the question.
Okay,
Very
let's-
simple question.
okay, let me
Does
ask you.
God change his nature?
No.
He does not?
No.
Okay.
No. Hear me. Bear with me. I don't want you to, bring confusion. What I want to
I'm
explain
trying to clarify
you
the
first,
confusion.
Let me want to explain to you.
Okay, go on.
First of all, the God of creation, who is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, is God who entered creation. Many times he entered the creation.
That wasn't my question.
When you talk about God, is God does God change?
change his nature.
Yeah, but it doesn't.
But do you understand the meaning of the question I asked you?
Okay, that's why I'm trying to explain to you.
What?
Has God been outside the creation?
It's nothing to do with outside or inside.
No, he's
when I say change in nature, this is what I mean.
Hear me.
So God was spirit
Can
before.
you hear me give the explanation?
Yeah, but at least try to understand
Your
the question.
God does not enter creation because it's a physical God.
Who said he's a physical God? Where did you get that from?
Allah is not a spirit.
So who told you that?
Allah is not a spirit.
Look, for you to define Allah is spirit or not spirit, who told you that?
Let me explain now.
Don't try to invent what Allah is. Okay?
We know.
Just
all
ask
about
if you know all about it. Okay. Tell me what you know about Allah.
Let's go back.
Let's see.
No, let's go back to the real.
The question you haven't answered yet is, does God change his nature?
That's what I
You
want
said
to
no.
explain
Is that
to
right?
you.
You said no.
No.
Did you say yes or no? Are you evading the question?
No.
So answer the question. It's very simple. I gave you chance.
I can't give you straight
It's a very
answer.
simple question.
No, I can't.
Okay, ask me the question.
I can't answer.
Does
I
God
can't
change
answer.
his nature?
I have to
Okay?
explain to you for you to understand.
Let me ask him a question. Does God change his nature?
No,
He doesn't change his nature.
Hashim.
See how quick that was? I'm asking
Give me
you.
time to explain.
How much time do you need?
I am a Christian. We have a certain belief. You are a Muslim. You have a certain belief, and no one can change you that perception of your belief. So let me explain what we believe. Then you may understand.
Okay, so explain to me about the nature of God. Go on.
So
Explain
listen.
to me the nature of
I
God.
say first.
As per your belief.
I said, yeah, God is outside creation, but God entered the creation, and many times He entered the creation. That's why we have when He entered the creation, when He came before the tent of Abraham, yeah, God spoke to Abraham, and we talked with Abraham. In that time when He entered creation, He was a physical person.
God was a physical person.
He was physical. He's a human. And Abraham.
What shape did he come in?
Sorry.
What shape did he come in?
When I say physical, you are a physical person. Don't bring any like.
Well, I have a form, isn't it? I'm a physical person.
Exactly, that's what I'm
What
talking
form
about.
did God come in to Abraham if he came as physical?
He was a human being.
Oh, he came as a human being.
What we know, Abraham saw them and set water before them to wash their feet, and he set food before them, and God ate the food of Abraham.
Okay.
And that's
You've answered my question. Thank you.
That's what I'm saying. So God of
You know what you have just done?
sorry, listen to me, and then
You keep going on and
No,
on.
no, I have to-
you need to have a break between
gonna
points
give you
so we
time.
can actually
I'm
analyze
gonna-
what you're saying.
I'm gonna give
but if you
you
keep
time.
going
No,
on,
I'm not
if
trying
you're going
to
to
do
give me a
that.
whole
Unless-
story
no.
which has got no head and no tail,
No,
then we just go
Hashim,
around in
just
circles.
be
So look,
patient. I'll give you time. I give you time.
no, but
Let me
I need to
finish.
know how long you're going to take. How long do you want? How long do you want?
I'm going to make a point, and then you
Okay,
can
how
come
long
in.
do you need?
I'm almost finished.
Okay, good.
Almost finished. So what I'm saying to you, when you're talking about the change, does God change nature? I'm saying to you, God live outside the creation, but God enter creation when He chooses. So he entered creation many times, and evidence is there in Old Testament. In Old Testament. So what I'm saying to you, when God says He will enter creation through the birth of the son of a child, we will be born of the human of a woman, and what He said from the beginning, He fulfill it. That's why we don't see Jesus as a being born from Mary, but He entered creation in that way for the only one purpose, to redeem mankind.
Are you done?
The downfall. Yes.
Are you done?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm done.
So basically the question was very simple. Does God change His nature?
The nature of God, no one knows the nature of God.
Hold on.
No human being
Hold
knows
on.
the
You just
nature of
told me He
God.
became a human.
God, all we know, Jesus said God is a spirit.
Did He not say He became a human?
God, yes. Exactly. He became
So
a
that is the
human.
nature of God, right?
No, it's
when
not
He
his
became a
nature.
human, that
It
was His
is
nature.
It is His ability to enter His own creation.
No.
He created.
When you
It's
have you
not a
okay?
nature.
Have you got a human nature?
I'm a human nature.
Okay. Did Jesus have a human nature?
Yes, when he was incarnated.
Okay. Before He incarnated, did He have a human nature?
No, He didn't.
Good. So He became from a non-human to a human.
Yes.
So that's a change in nature. Thank you.
He enters. He has that ability to enter because
No, have you not realized?
That's what I'm saying.
When you are not a human.
No, I'm saying He has the power.
No. You completely misunderstood what I'm asking you. When He was non-human, yes, and then after incarnation He became a human, you changed nature from non-human to human. Do you not realize that?
No,
So your God has changed nature.
I give it to you.
It's not about giving it to
No,
me.
all I'm saying-
It's contradictory to your Bible, which says God doesn't change nature.
It doesn't contradict. It's the ability, the power He has. Who He created is.
So let me ask you this. I think you misunderstood the meaning of nature. Okay? Let me ask you this. Is your nature as a human, does it have certain limitations?
Man is limited, yes.
Okay. When Jesus became a human, does he have limitations?
He became constrained within that human form.
Which is called a limit.
But it's not a limit because.
Why not?
Because the reason why he came within the purpose of his. He was within the purpose of his.
I didn't ask you about the purpose. I asked you about his limitation.
I'm saying the one you're trying to represent as a limit is not such a limit because it was a purpose.
So Jesus could live without eating.
Within the human form, no, you can't live.
So it's a limitation.
If you want to put it.
What do you mean if you want to put it? Do you not understand simple English?
No.
I'm sorry to say this, but if I'm telling you very clearly that as a human, once he became a human, he has limitations now.
What I'm saying, yes, because he was incarnate, he became a human like you and me.
So he changed his nature from a limitless God to a limited human.
You see,
do you not realize the change in nature?
What I'm saying to you, what I'm trying to assert is what you're trying to portray as a limitation. It's an ability to do.
A limitation is not an ability. A limitation is inability, not an ability.
I think I know.
A limitation is inability.
I know your mind behind this.
You know my mind?
Yes, behind it.
So do you know God's mind?
Because
do you know God's mind? Because Jesus, when he was a limited man, he said, "By myself."
Was not a limited.
Okay, so explain. Wait. Explain to me when Jesus said, "By myself I can do nothing." Gone.
Which is
if he wasn't limited. John 5:30, when he said, "By myself I can do nothing," explain that to me.
What he said, he could not do outside the will of his Father. So he could not do things of his own.
So he's dependent.
Unless within the will of the Father, which he.
So is he dependent on the Father?
Come and save mankind.
Good.
That's what he was asserting.
Is he dependent on the Father?
Of course, the Father and the Son are one.
No.
So
is the Son dependent on the Father?
They are one.
If they are one, then why is he saying I can do nothing by myself?
Why is saying? You see,
the Father never made that statement, but the Son did.
Yes, he made that.
So that means the Father is not limited, but the Son is limited.
Jesus always said, "I don't do my will. I do the will of my Father."
Exactly.
Which is mean the will of the Father is to redeem mankind. So he came to fulfill that will of the Father, that mankind can be reconciled with the Father.
So you have done two things there. You have done two things. I don't know if you have realized this. One, he's not independent like the Father is. Two, he submits to the Father like a servant submits to a master.
Yes.
Do you agree?
Yes.
Does God have limits?
But that's what I'm coming from. The
one you're
thing
not coming from there. You're going opposite of what God is.
The one thing you don't understand, Hashim,
which is
the purpose of something. When that something has a purpose, that purpose has to be fulfilled within God. When He said, see.
Are we talking about the purpose?
No, sir.
Or we are talking about the nature?
No, I'm talking about the purpose.
No, but that wasn't my question.
You see, Jesus.
You see, this is every time they do this. When we ask a question, imagine I ask you a question,
Hashim.
What is your name? And you tell me I live in London. Instead of answering the question which I asked him about the nature, I never asked you about the purpose. Look, if you ask me about the purpose, yes, then you explain to me the purpose. But the thing is, I'm asking you about the nature of God. The nature of God, according to you, he was non. Wait. From what you said, and you agreed this, he, from a non-human God, you said your God incarnated and became a human.
Yes.
So you were before without any limits, without any dependency. Now you are limited and you're dependent.
It's not limited.
Is he not? So Jesus was telling a lie when he said, by myself I can do nothing.
Jesus entered the creation. And the creation itself, he has a limitation in the way that it is established.
So he's not equal to the creation now.
So, okay, I'm saying to you, what I'm trying to explain to you
is what?
There's one big point I was trying to make. I'm saying to you, when Jesus entered, you see, when they came in to arrest him, and then Peter pulled the knife, he wanted to, he cut one of the soldiers here.
Yes.
Jesus said, put back your sword.
You mean Peter?
Put back, was Peter?
He said Paul.
No, Paul.
It's okay,
Peter,
sir.
Peter.
One of the disciples.
He put
Paul wasn't
back.
there.
He put back. He said, "Who reign by the sword shall perish by the sword." Which is mean. He said, "Don't you think that if he could call the Father to send him a legions of angels to come and fight for him?"
So he has to ask the Father, yes? Again, dependency.
No.
You're proving my point, my friend.
The reason why he was saying that,
Yes.
because he was in the flesh.
So he was limited.
He was here.
Which is his limited, right?
Which is mean he was in obedience within the purpose he was sent.
Was he limited when he was a human being?
He was not limited.
He wasn't.
Because
So why does he need to ask the Father to send the legion of angels?
Exactly.
Why can't he himself do it? Summon them instead of asking the Father, like for example, when he was in the Garden of Gethsemane, what does he do? What does he do? Tell me.
Yes.
See if you remember that
no,
part.
I know. You say, Father, why are you forsaking me?
No, that's not in the Garden of Gethsemane. You don't know your Bible well.
Oh, when he prayed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What does he do when he prays? What is the action he does?
When
He puts his face.
Yes, when he prostrates.
He puts his face where?
On the ground.
On the ground. And he begs God for what?
No, he says, not my will, but your will.
You only took
possible.
half the prayer. What is the
If
first part of the prayer?
possible. If-
I like it when the
if
Christians
possible.
completely
Jesus said,
ignore
if
the first part of
sorry,
the prayers.
He said, if possible,
Yeah.
Father, remove this cup, but not my will, but your will.
Okay, and what was the will to do what? The will
That
was
he
to do
may-
what?
He may die.
To be saved from the cross.
He said,
To be saved from the crucifixion, right?
He said, not my will.
Yeah, I know, but the will to do what?
He said, no, Jesus was making clear.
Stop.
Jesus was making clear. If possible, take away this cup from me, but not my will, but
Yeah,
your
I know,
will be done.
not his will to do what?
Yes.
To take the cup away. Now let me ask you this. Why is Jesus, if he's not limited, why is he praying to God?
Because they are unity. They're one.
He doesn't need to pray.
No,
Does God need to pray?
Yes,
God needs to pray.
You see, when we say prayer is a conversation. To the Christian, prayer is a conversation, and we believe when we pray with God, we have that communication with the Holy Spirit. We speak in our heart.
When you say prayer is a conversation,
Sorry, prayer is a conversation
Yes.
with the Christians.
no, when you say prayer is a conversation, let me ask you this. If you are able to do something by yourself, yes, do you normally ask people to do it?
You see, no.
Did you understand the question? If you are able to do something by your own...
me explain
No,
this.
you need to understand the question very well. In order for it to be answered correctly. In order for you, if you have the ability, say for example, you have the ability to stand up when you're sitting. Yes? Do you normally ask other people to help you up?
That's a human.
Well, Jesus was a human.
No, that's a human
What do you say?
sphere. You know.
No,
within
no.
our- that's a
I'm trying to
human
make you
sphere.
understand the
Yes.
difference
That-
between a
no,
prayer.
we have the ability.
I want you
A
to
prayer is
understand the
different.
difference between a prayer, which is you asking God for something you cannot achieve by yourself. Yes? Do you agree that the will of the Father is not the same as the will of the Son?
No, Jesus said, even he said, why am I in trouble? For this reason I was born.
No, don't
He
change.
was, for this reason
every time
I
I
was
ask you a
born
question,
to die.
you
No,
go
no,
somewhere.
I'm
Is the
asking.
will
It's
of the
same
Father
thing,
the same
which
as the
is
will of the
mean,
Son?
It's a something people will be judged about it, how difficult it was.
You're doing it again.
No.
You're not answering the question I'm asking you.
I'm answering the question.
Okay, what is my question?
Let me answer the
No,
question.
what is my question? Let's see if you even listen to it. What is my question?
Your point you try to assert is, if he was able,
What
he
is
could
my
have-
question?
He did not have.
See, you were not
to-
listening. Who says that?
He did not have to ask, to his father. He could have done it by himself. That's your question.
No, you
Why
did not.
does
You see, that is the
why does
problem.
he have to ask?
You were not listening. Once again, you are thinking of how to respond or ask the next question.
No, it's the
Listen,
same. It's coming to.
listen to the question this time, and please answer it. The Father and the Son, do they have the same will, or do they have their own will,
It's
which
the
is
same
different
will.
from each other?
It's the same will.
It is the same. So if the will is the same, why does Jesus have to say, "Let it be your will, not mine"? Because listen. If the will was same, yes, he would have said, what is your will and my will is the same. Now wait, I haven't finished asking the question. You're doing it again. Instead of listening to the question, you want to rush to the next question to ask me. Please, God has given us 2 years for a reason. So we listen carefully before we respond. Okay? Jesus, you're saying they have the same will. By the way, this goes against the church's teaching. I don't know if you follow the church doctrines, but this goes against the teachings of the church, who clearly specify that the will of the Father and the will of the Son, they both have their own will, and they do not share a will. They have their own will, which is the reason the Father is not the Son and the Son is not the Father. If they have the same will, why does Jesus say, your will, not mine?
You see, let me answer. All I'm saying to you, for this reason,
are you going to answer that question?
Yes.
Are you going to answer that question about the will being different?
Yes, for this reason I was born. There was no other reason Jesus was born for than to come into the world and to proclaim the kingdom of heaven and suffer for it and die. That's why he said that for this reason I was born. But the point of him inquiring to the Father, it was just an expression to the world to show us how difficult
it wasn't an inquiry. It was a pleading. He was sweating blood. Please do not try to sugarcoat what Jesus did in the Garden. No, I don't want you to misrepresent Jesus' pleading in the Garden of Gethsemane.
I'm not. Even in the Psalms,
why was he sweating blood if it was just a communication? Imagine somebody sweating blood, he's on his knees and he's begging God, take this cup away from me, let it be your will be done, not mine.
That's a testimony to all human beings.
That's not a testimony. That is him trying to bail out of, like you said, his main purpose was to suffer for mankind.
Exactly.
And when the time came, he wants to bail out.
He did not.
Did he not realize that?
He was not willing to bail out.
No, so why is he begging God to take the cup away from him? Why?
To the testimony to the all humanity that for the Son of God to go through this, it wasn't like because it was God, it was a miracle going to happen. But it is as a human being in the flesh.
So he was scared.
Who suffered the
was he scared?
And the suffering for our iniquities.
Yeah. Was he scared?
That's you see.
Are you going to answer the question? Any of my questions, are you going to answer? I asked you about the will, you completely ignored that. I asked you about the nature of God. Once again, you even after saying he became a human, you still ignored it.
The same because
no, the will is not same. Jesus says, let it be your will, not my will.
Jesus affirmed, for this reason I was born. For this reason I was born.
So why is he asking God to take the cup away then?
But that's what I'm bringing you, to the suffering to bear all the sins of humanity. It wasn't that easy thing for him to go through.
So he was hesitating.
Did it for you and
was he
me.
hesitating?
He did it for you and me.
Was he hesitating?
That we may see the value of what he did.
You know what you're doing here? You think you're in the church and you can preach to your congregation.
I'm explaining to you the scripture.
Are you by chance some sort of a pastor?
Everyone is a pastor.
Everyone?
As a Christian.
I'm not a pastor.
We have been sent to make all nations disciples of Jesus. So I have to preach to others.
So you are preaching?
No.
This is not a church, my friend.
Preaching means to explain the word.
Okay, so explain the question I'm asking you.
That's what I'm explaining to you.
Why was Jesus sweating blood?
But that's what I'm saying to you.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
It's the pain he was going to go through, the suffering to bear the sins of all humanity. Your sins, my sins, and every man was born of a woman and a man.
And if that is, so he was scared. Is that what you're trying to tell us?
It's the pain, the suffering.
Was Jesus scared as a human?
He wasn't scared.
So why did he ask God to show him another way? Take the cup away from me. Because he asked 3 times. Look, he asked 1, 2, and 3 times for his God to take the cup away from him. Yes, by the will of God, by the will of his God, not by Jesus' will, by the will of his God. Remember,
wait a
minute.
You keep the will.
For some reason, you're stuck in this. Mind is stuck in your mind with this. The reason is born. The reason is born. Yeah, exactly. Imagine this: if you are in the army, or if you are in the army, yes, you train your entire life in the army in order to fight a war. So whenever your general summons you, then you will be ready to fight a war. When the time for war comes, yes, you start to sweat and you start to shiver and you start to tell your commander that please, if there is any other way, yes, show me by your will, if there is another way, save me from going to that war. Now, what would the general tell him?
In a human understanding, like you and me, we will say
The Bible is meant for human understanding, is it not?
Sorry, no.
The Bible is meant for human understanding.
Jesus said, "The word I speak to you are spirit, are spirit."
Okay. What would the commander tell that? What would the commander tell that young soldier?
In a human understanding,
Yeah. What would he tell him?
we will say the person
Is
is
what? He's a coward.
is overwhelmed with
Fear.
is overwhelmed maybe
fear.
with anxiety or fear or whatever. We can put it down.
Okay.
We can put it
Was
down.
Jesus not overwhelmed with any of this?
wasn't. He
Okay.
wasn't.
So he was, for no reason, he's telling his God, take the cup away from him. For no reason.
Yes.
Okay. No reason.
No,
Are you sure?
there was a reason.
So what was the reason
The
for?
reason,
Wait.
that's
What was the
what I'm
reason?
saying.
What was the reason?
The reason, that's what I'm saying. It was to be known to the humanity that what he has to endure, it wasn't as just like a magic thing, but it was a painful and suffering in the flesh, because he was going to suffer all this, not in his spiritual
For whom?
being,
For whom
but
it was
in the
painful?
physical.
For whom it was painful?
For him to bear the sins of all mankind.
Okay. So when you say pain, did Jesus feel pain on the
Yes,
cross?
he did.
He
He
did.
was in the
Now let me ask you this: do you believe Jesus is one person or two persons?
Jesus,
I don't think it's funny.
Why-
You know, there's a heresy in the Christian church. There are people who actually believe that Jesus was two persons.
Jesus
It's
is
called
one
the Heresy of Nestorianism. And the reason this was a heresy is because many Christians actually believe this. And that is the reason I'm asking you. Do you believe Jesus is one person or two persons?
Jesus is one person who entered creation. When he entered creation, he became a fleshly person, but he was still this spiritual nature.
Okay. Was he?
still have it.
So you're saying you mentioned two things. You mentioned that he was one person, and he has a spiritual nature and a human nature. Am I right?
He became-
Now this is where I want you to listen very carefully. You mentioned earlier that he felt pain. Yes? Let me ask you this. Does the human nature and the spiritual nature, is it attached to the first person of the Trinity, second person of the Trinity, or the third person of the
The
Trinity?
flesh nature is just an ability he used to enter, but is not a human as such.
No. Did the second person of the Trinity, yes, take upon the nature of a human? He did. So he has a human nature, and he already had a divine nature.
But that's what I explained to you.
But I'm clarifying. I know you explained this,
when I
but
answer
I
you-
want you to understand before I ask you the question. I
But
want
that's
to
what I said at the
clarify.
beginning. God, who created, is outside the creation.
Yeah, it's not about
But he
outside
has
and inside the
ability
creation.
to enter
It's about the
creation.
nature of God.
Exactly.
Whether he was
That's what I'm
outside or
saying.
inside.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, he entered. When he entered the creation in time of Abraham, he became a human being, just like Jesus became a human being, and God ate the food. He washed the feet.
Can you
Before
at
Abraham,
least?
he ate the
You're
food
agreeing
of
with me.
Abraham.
You're agreeing with me.
Yeah, but that's
so.
what I'm
So I
saying.
want to.
So
The reason.
that-
Wait. The reason I asked you is in order for me to clarify to you, so I don't misrepresent you. So we believe that Jesus felt pain.
Yes,
We agreed that,
on
okay?
the cross, yes.
On the cross, yeah, according to your belief, of course.
He suffered for us.
Then you also, before